Hey, everybody, welcome to the Digital Young Life podcast. So excited that you're here again. Thanks for taking some time. Today we have Andi Seaton, who is up in Seattle doing Young Life College. She's got years of this work, this digital contact work stuff, and I think you're going to learn a ton from her. So, without further ado, here's Andi Seaton. Hey, welcome to the podcast, Andi Seaton. So excited to have you with us today. Um, yeah, guys, this is Andi. She's been a friend for a long time. And Andi, I'd love for you to just share with us a little bit about who you are, where you've been within the ministry of Young Life, and just kind of the journey maybe God's taken you so far in the social media realm, but even outside of that.
Totally. Well, it's so fun each time I get to spend time with you, Adam, because I got to meet you my first year on full-time staff. So I just spent time in Colorado and North Carolina and was moving back west and picked up a random assignment at Washington Family Ranch, and you were there. And so to be able to see people in different spaces in the ministry is so sweet. For me, I was introduced to Young Life in Seattle while I was in college. Like I said, lived in a couple different places, was a Young Life college director down in North County, San Diego, so in Southern California, for about 6 years. And then in the last couple months, I have moved back to Seattle. And I'm the college director up here, doing some rebuilding and re envisioning what ministry looks like in a city that means so much to me. But for me, I was asked to start a Young Life College ministry, invited, dare I say, invited to start a Young Life College ministry, and the world was about to change significantly. And so in the fall of 2019, I moved into a neighborhood that I didn't know anyone and was trying to figure out how to care for college students who I didn't know. I had no business being there. And we started to dabble in social media as a way to connect with students. And then obviously in 2020, while we weren't able to physically be with people, it was through social media that we built a brand new ministry. And so I think in learning in this unique time, this tool that so many other industries had figured out how to use in impactful ways, I was beginning to see as a platform to initiate relationships, to build trust, and ultimately to invite into in person relationships. That when for us in 2020, when we were finally allowed to be in person, we could dive right into what the Lord was doing in local communities. And so I have been a huge advocate for social media since day one. I also grew up with social media. I think being in a generation where I had my first smartphone at the end of high school, but like my senior year and through my college years, I was discovering who I was alongside this platform that was evolving. And so for me, it was kind of this like, why wouldn't we use something that so many young people are connected with? And so it's been kind of fun that as my journey on Young Life has evolved, the way I use the tools that were offered have also evolved. So that's why I'm so excited about what you're doing, Adam, with the digital just communication and how we care for students. In my context, young adults and college students, but all students.
Awesome. Yeah. And it's been a huge blessing in my life. And really the just our relationship has been really fun. Been fun to get to know you over the years and watch you grow just in your leadership capacity and specifically in the space because you really were a part of the beginning. Maybe not, I mean, I think a lot of people were doing something, especially around COVID, right before COVID, trying to just figure out like, is this social media thing bad? Is it good? Is it
Mm-hmm.
neutral?
Mm-hmm.
All of our kids are on it, and what does that mean? And do we need to get them off? I mean, there were all these questions were kind of rolling around, I think, in everybody's mind. And you were, I think, really one of the pioneers in trying things out and just trying to figure out like how can we use this as a tool instead of see it as an evil. I'm curious why that mattered, like even post COVID, why that continued to matter to you, because it makes a lot of sense to me why it would matter when everybody was just at home.
Mm-hmm.
But why did that continue to be a big deal for you and the work that you were doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think just when we see something work, we're like, well, wait, we should pay attention to this. When something turns results or has impact, I think as people who are seeking to have impact in their community, we should pay attention to it. And we, week after week, would have people we had never met face to face before showing up to events, asking to hang out, signing up to get coffee with a leader who, when we asked them, how did you hear about us? They're like, oh, I saw a social media post. Even in moving here to Seattle, we threw our first event and so many kids showed up. I was new, so I didn't know if they were new or not. And so I'm just getting to know them. I'm like, oh, when did you first hear about Young Life? And they're like, yesterday on the Instagram post. And so seeing something that students are responding to and taking action upon, I think that's why I was so intrigued by it. I also think my leadership style and the way that I do things is I'm not afraid to fail. And so this was just one of those things where I was like, it's kind of low risk. Like if I, spend an hour, half an hour each week throwing up some posts, sending out some DMs, like maybe it's just a drop in the bucket. But what if one of those drops lands with a student who's looking for something? And maybe we might be a part of the way that Jesus is inviting them into more. And so I think that's why I kept trying it because it was working. And I wasn't too concerned on like, is this the most right thing for us to do? It was more of like, why not try? And just to over and over again, I mean, in Young Life, we use these metrics of numbers of students showing up to things or the number of students or kids we know by name. And those numbers, we saw a direct correlation between the investment on social media and those numbers. Even to the point of like, we went from our fall camping across 3 years from like 20 kids to 45 to over 70 across 3 years. And to see that trajectory, and one of the few things that was constant, we never met in the same place. We couldn't find someone to host us. Our team was ever evolving, but our presence on social media remained. And so this core group of students remained connected and informed of who we are and what we were becoming.
That's awesome. Do you have, can you remember back to like a specific story, like of a student maybe
Hmm.
when you start where you like something in you maybe changed and you're like, this actually, I think this is actually working.
Totally. Okay, it was like I can't remember if it was maybe it was fall of 2020 or spring of 21. It was like the first couple weeks where we could do in-person small group gatherings. And so I lived right next to a park down in California. And so I posted all this stuff about this girls campaigners, like girls Bible study. And this guy shows up. And I'm like, "Who are you?" His name was Brian. And Brian was like, I like saw this page and I'm so excited. You guys go to the beach and you guys are hanging out together and I'm looking for friends. Brian was an international student who obviously had like no community and the campus was shut down. And so he was just trying to find places to meet people. And so he shows up to this girls' Bible study. Ironically, someone else didn't realize that it was a girls' Bible study, so there was another guy there. So we were okay. I was like, okay, this isn't going to be too weird for him. So we go through this Bible study early morning, midweek. We're talking about Jesus, and students are sharing their questions and what they're wondering about and what's going on in their lives. And then we take time to pray at the end, and Brian raises his hand. He hasn't said anything the whole time, and I'm a little bit nervous. He has no idea what he has just stepped into. And he goes, I've never heard of this Jesus before, but would you be willing to help me understand? And I was like, yes, yes, we will. It was this beautiful moment where he was so drawn in by the adventure and open. It wasn't like he was like misguided. Like we were very clear that we love Jesus on our Instagram, but he was like, I haven't heard of this before. Brian then got connected with a guys group that was happening at the same time, came to our weekly beach hangouts, and met the Lord that year. He then would invite his friends and met a community of people that he's still connected with now 5 years later. And he showed up because he was drawn in by something that we portrayed. I would have never in a million years. Well, Brian owns a nail salon, so maybe I would have ended up at his nail salon, but I would have never in a million years like met Brian other than him seeing a social media post. And that was that like moment where I was like, oh, this has an impact.
Hmm.
If it's just for Brian, if it's just for Grace, if it's just for Catherine, if it's just for Marquise, if it's just for this one student that sees something, maybe I could belong or I could be a part of this. Continuing to communicate who we are authentically is really important.
Yeah. Oh, it's so awesome. And it's just so true, and it's so funny what the Lord decides to use and how
Hmm.
he decides to use it. And then sometimes I feel like he just throws things in our laps of like, all right, you want to do this? Okay.
Okay.
Here you go. And I'm just so glad that you were there. I'm so glad that you were the one, who was like, all right, like, I'm so glad that you showed up. Yes, like, come on. And I mean, just his life was changed. I think it makes me think about there's a lot of students, college students, there's a lot of teenagers within kind of the reach of our mission in the towns and schools and stuff that we're in, that would probably otherwise be invisible to
Hmm.
us. Can you speak
Hmm.
a little bit to that? Because I think you've seen a lot of that. I think you've seen a lot of kids that you just wouldn't have met in like
Totally.
the normal contact work situations.
Hmm.
Um, can you speak to how maybe that has like unfurl itself within the work that
Hmm.
you've done?
Totally. Well, I was reflecting on my own experience as a college student. And when I was a college student, there was a point early on where I was having a really hard time connecting and making friends. I was changing my mind about things. I was discovering more of who I've been created to be, and I felt really, really lonely. And I had this like moment of epiphany, and this was like even before social media was a huge thing. I mean, like Netflix streaming had just come out, and I had just binged like 15 seasons of Grey's Anatomy. Like, it's wild. And I had this moment where I was like, I'm so sad and alone, and no one knows that I'm sad and alone because I'm alone.
Hmm.
Like, I'm in my room by myself, attached to this screen. No one has any idea that I'm here. That has radically changed in the reality of a young adult. Of they're alone and they can see and they're watching a world happen in front of their eyes through social media, whether it's Snapchat or Instagram or TikTok or whatever, the news stream, they're watching a world take like lives upon lives take place. Um, and in realizing that, there is this huge need for community. Like young people are looking to be seen and loved and cared for and to belong to something. Um, and and this might sound kind of silly, but I actually pray over our posts. Like I pray over what we're posting, but the one who is seeking might find the invitation to come or to show up or get connected. And then we watch it happen. That's the
Yeah.
crazy thing is like the Lord is doing something with this. Um, that we have students who are in between. They are not out of college showing up. We have students who are trying to discover who they've been created to be and have big questions and aren't sure where they fall on things. So they feel like they don't belong somewhere. And they see this line of everyone's welcome or come as you are, or we are showing what our community looks like, that it is a place where they can belong, the language we're using, and in that, students are showing up.
Hmm.
They're taking insane steps of courage to show up to a space where they don't know anyone, and like they're experiencing community. Um, I mean, I have probably 1,000 stories of students who are like, I just was desperate enough, I guess, or I just
Hmm.
didn't want to like spend another night by myself, or I've been watching it for a year and thought might as well try it this time. Um, And then when they do, they're welcomed because we have leaders who are trained and ready to receive them. We created a culture of welcome, and then they keep coming back.
Hmm.
We had one girl who found us on Instagram in November here in Seattle. She was sharing, we did our first club. of the quarter last week, and I asked her to share about it, and she was like, "You just got to keep coming back. It's worth it, I promise." She's like, "Not that it's weird the first time, but just keep coming back." And it was this moment where she was like sharing, like it took courage to show up. It
Mhm.
cost them something, but something that she saw on social media was compelling enough to
Hmm.
risk it to show up.
Hmm. You said something there that I think, I mean, you keep using the word show up, that you guys show up, and then you also used that word in the sense that like you are showing students in your community, young adults in your community, like what your community looks like and what they're being invited into. How do you do that well? Like, especially, I'm thinking of your ministry where like you just moved to Seattle, like you don't know a ton of people, and I'm not sure if you're trying to change something, but it's new. I think there's a lot
Hmm.
of areas that are in that same kind of boat of going like, how do I show something so that people can actually see what they're being invited into?
Totally. This is the number one question I get is like, well, we're just doing a small group, but it's not that fun. It's like, okay, well, think about what you're inviting them into. And so all last quarter, we did worship nights and we did things that looked and sounded a bit like club, but we also just did fun hangouts. We
Hmm.
just also did really fun events where it's like, if you show up, this is all we're doing. Like, there is a need to earn trust in the neighborhood. And that's what I love about a lot of like our area developers or people in leadership are often like, okay, there's an on ramp here. The hope, I mean, I would hope that if you're building an area, the expectation is not to start club tomorrow, that you need to build a culture and set expectation of people are welcome here. They're not going to be judged. Um, this is a place where we love Jesus and we want to talk about Jesus, but you don't have to align one way or another to enjoy participating. And so this might be actually digging a lot more into like ministry philosophy than social
Hmm.
media like tools, but okay, are is what you're doing actually accessible to a non-believing student or a student who's on the fringe or a student who is looking for a place to belong but not sure what they believe about Jesus? And if that's not the case, I don't know, talk to your supervisor, have a conversation with someone who can say more about that. But for us, like that's our goal. And our target audience is always the young adult who would not otherwise feel welcome in church. So we've defined that locally for us. And then we've thought about what is a non church attending young adult looking for? They're looking for fun, they're looking for community, they're looking for connection. How do we then communicate that? And I ask students, the few students I do know, I'm asking them, like, is this cool? Is this weird? Like, am I saying something I'm not meaning to say right now? We're doing, okay, this is really niche. We're doing a hot dogs from heaven party tomorrow.
I saw that.
Yes, and you can follow at YL College Seattle to see all the craziness.
Can't wait.
Um, but the Mariners, the local Major League Baseball team here in Seattle, during the eighth inning, I believe, the song Heaven is a Place on Earth starts playing, and hot dogs fall from the sky with little parachutes. It's hilarious. People lose their minds over it. It's gone like kind of viral on the internet. It's so funny. And so people in Seattle, if they're around baseball culture or on the internet, they'll see that and be like, "Oh, is that the same thing or what's going on here?" And so we're literally just throwing like a dry house party. Doesn't follow into our club numbers. We're not counting it on CMC. We're just throwing a party. We're calling it structured contact work. And so our our level one contact work on social media being seen, level two is like being known, and level three doing something together. And we've kind of smushed those into like two of like being seen and then doing something together. And in that we get to know each other. But that works for college. I think when you're looking at middle school and high school, that might need to be adjusted. But for college, I can get to know someone pretty well at a hot dog party. And so this idea of like what we're inviting them into, what we're showing on social media is going to be what they experience when they show up. If your club right now, your club or your gathering is board games in a church gym and a message, that's awesome. That actually is going to meet the need of someone in your community. But if you communicate that it's this like super crazy event and then there's 12 kids in the gym and people are like, this is not what you said it was, you're going to lose trust. And so that's where we're always communicating. It's much like the priority is authenticity. The priority is not attractive.
Hmm.
We know that the fruits of the Spirit and what the Lord builds is attractive. Like we know the kingdom of God is attractive. And so we're going to trust that what we're building is refined by the Spirit and it's going to draw in people. And we're going to stay true to the mission of Young Life that is life to the full, and it's a sin to bore a kid with the gospel. But I myself am never going to be cooler than trending culture. I just can't do that. I'm too tired. I'm not going to like keep up with the trends, but I do trust that the Spirit of God is attractive. And so whatever it is that you're doing now, be honest and authentic with what you're portraying. It's going to attract a certain type of kid. And then go from there. If you have this vision of fun, like more chaotic, outgoing, I don't know, game nights or just dance parties or dodgeball or those things, like instill the vision in your leaders, your student leaders, your core group of kids, and ask for help in that. So I would say, I know I've said a lot of different things and kind of pulled from a lot of different topics, but people get the most unsettled where they're like, we're just hanging out in a living room. That's okay. That's totally fine. That's awesome. There's going to be a kid in your community that would love to show up to a living room and to have a calm, inviting night.
Yeah, that's great. Be authentic, because I think that's just such a good word for this. And I just can't wait until I hear a story of a pastor in like 20 years, and he'll be telling his testimony in front of his church, and it's like, I first kind of encountered this group of people at this hot dogs from heaven event in Seattle. Like, it's just
Oh,
like you're going to be talking to somebody, you're going to meet somebody,
I
and that's going
know.
to be your story. Like and it's just going to be amazing. That's so cool, and it's like it is really niche. Like it is that, and I think sometimes in Young Life there are great things that are across the board are going to be fun all the time. Like Bree talked about on the last little episode about they did a Hot Ones in a similar vein, right? Like they hyped it up on social media. They had a ton of kids come because it was Hot Ones, because they were able to experience something they had only seen like this, right? And
Hmm.
all of a sudden they're experiencing something we know that is experiencing life, even though it's through hot sauce or hot dogs, but like those are just the frills, right, into something more. Um, but sometimes it's going to be really, really niche. Like we're not going to do that here in Charleston, a hot dogs from heaven. At least not right now. Maybe we will with sometime. That would be kind of funny, but who
Totally.
knows?
Or
Yeah.
like a really great example of this in the Young Life College world, the trending event right now is milk jousting.
Oh yeah.
It's absolutely absurd. It's hilarious. I would love to do that. We will never do that in Seattle. That like people will boycott that event here. And that's just the reality.
Totally.
Even like it's so funny. Even like the most stereotypical person would be like they'd be totally down for this because I still hold stereotypes. He was like, that's like really insensitive. Like that feels really wasteful. And I was like, you're so right. Okay, we won't do that. So it's knowing the context in which you're doing ministry,
Mm,
right? And understanding how you're being perceived in the community. But it's just this really impactful way to engage with students. And then again, just being authentic to who you are.
yeah. Yeah.
Being, yeah,
Yeah.
the
And
authenticity piece.
well, and I think that's where it turns the corner, right, from just trying to like be trending or have the right graphic or the right song on your reel, or or whatever, and moves into like, how can we be intentional in contact work with this? Like, how are we going to leverage this in the same way that we would going into a lunchroom or a football game or a coffee shop or behind the gas station or all the other places that we would go to meet kids. But what do you think's at stake if areas don't take this seriously, in the sense of this is a place where kids are, but maybe for whatever reason, good intention or not, they're just not thinking that this is the right place for Young Life to be?
Um, that's a good question. I think what's at stake is a little bit different from community to community. Um, I think that if a Young Life area is not on social media, they're going to have a really hard time being an outreach ministry.
Hmm.
I think in a world, I was just walking with some community members this morning through our neighborhood, uh, just addressing the challenges of the world we're living in and the polarization of views and these different images and experiences that the name of Christ has been attached to. We're living in a post-Christian era in the US at this point, and the the immediate association with the name Jesus is not always a great one. And so if we want to continue to do outreach ministry where we're building bridges between faith communities and those who have not yet experienced what it means to be with Jesus and to know God, um, we have to be willing to enter into their world, um, speak their language, and introduce them to the personal Jesus, the Jesus that knows them and loves them. That we have to be the hands and feet of Jesus, the one who moves into the neighborhood. And the neighborhood they're living in is online. That is where they're building their worldviews and their relationships and connecting. Yes, there is a very, very small subset of young people who are not on social media, but that is often connected with people who already have a faith background. They already have a worldview that is already inclined towards certain beliefs. And so, if we're going to remain outreach, if we're going to remain people who enter into the neighborhood, who enter into someone else's world, learn their language, become a good and kind friend, we have to be willing to meet them where they're at. And that's where they're at. And so, I would say, not to be dramatic, but everything's at stake. Like it is the core of who we are at Young Life. And within this mission is at stake if we're not willing to enter where young people are. Um, and this is just the I mean this is the outreach in the 90s at the smokers pit and in the bar. Like this is the outreach from the early 2000s at the frat party or the local like party after the football game. Like this isn't anything so bizarre. We just have entered into a more polarizing world where we've deemed things and given things labels that have limited our ability to enter in to spaces where I think actually Jesus would probably go.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm glad that you said that, and I don't think anything's at stake. I think just kind of is just because the more I think when I started kind of moving into this space, my my initial sort of inclination was like, yeah, if an area's got somebody who's maybe has a passion for this is a great place to do it. But if not, kind of don't worry about it. And the more that I'm watching, not just areas have success in this, which is just kind of edifying a little bit of like, yeah, this is exactly where we should be. But everything in the news lately, along like that, is talking about teenagers is how bad this is getting and how isolating and all of the bad things along that go with this, with the only solution that anyone is offering is we should get phones out of schools, but nothing else. There's no other solutions. And I think that's because the only other solution that we have is get some of those kids into relationships with people who care about them. And we do that usually pretty well within Young Life, or at least we claim to. So, I mean, I agree. I just think it would be a tough place to not be right now. And we'll have to have a bunch of other conversations too, because I think I'd love to go deep into just ways that you have watched and have even taught people how to do that well, especially in the college realm. But kind of as we finish up, because you do college ministry and because a lot of the people who are probably going to listen to this do high school ministry, what are some things that you have seen work or wish would work better in that transition from kind of exiting high schoolers into whatever college or just being a young adult and working? I mean, because you've got lots of those kids. are there things that you would want to want to say to some of those Young Life staff to go like, if you could do these 2 or 3 things for these kids, it would be incredible.
Hmm, that's a good question. Um, Well, I know that the Young Life has an alumni and friends network, and there's some internal Young Life tools around communication and contact info that are really great tools. So they're really good things. But if we don't know how to use the tool, or if our high school, college students don't know how to use the tool, neither here nor there. And so I think one of the biggest things, I was talking with an area director yesterday, and his area is about 20 minutes away from our campus, but they have a huge number of kids who, even though it's only 20 minutes away, they move on to campus. So there's a big culture of going to the school, being connected in this community. And so we're just talking about like, what would it look like to help build that bridge? And so one of the things I'll be doing, because it's local, is I'll be showing up to some of their spaces. So in person, I'm actually showing up. This is an in person and online thing. But I'm going to show them our Instagram and say, this is a way to follow along with what's going on. We would love for you to join in if you feel comfortable, if you would like. But I think what we're gonna see happen is just this like connecting on social media, this like showing what college could look like, showing what post high school can look like, showing that there is this community still happening and you could be a part of it. We know that there's no guarantee when we're transferring someone from one space to another that it's going to work. We've watched many people like come and go in those transition places, but I think just showing is huge. And so it could even be just like equipping your leaders of as you're getting ready to say goodbye of like, hey, where are you headed? Let's go search on Instagram to see if there's a Young Life College.
Hmm.
Or like let's send them a DM and let them know when you're moving in, or reaching out if someone is doing a good job with their social media, they're going to be active on there and responding. Um, but I would also just encourage you, if you are involved in high school ministry and you have graduating seniors, connect with your local Young Life College staff person. Your local person might be in the neighborhood or they might be 4 hours away, but every region has someone doing Young Life College, and just ask them what that could look like. And then communicating on your social media, because you probably have seniors or recent grads who still follow your local Instagram, and just asking if they want to get connected. I've watched so many areas who have just re engaged with their recent grads and just said, hey, like a group of us are going to this Young Life College event. Here's the post about it. They reshare it onto their page. And that, like, has just been this beautiful bridge for students who are looking to get reconnected, or who are like, I actually want to figure out where I'm at with my faith, or who have discovered God and have a relationship with Jesus now and are ready to be a volunteer leader. And so I think when we think about just facilitating relationships through social media, it's not just getting people to show up to an event. Like, yes, it is an outreach tool, it's a way to engage and invite people in, but it's also a way to stay connected and offer discipleship resources and opportunities along the way. And so there isn't one easy answer or one simple way of like, oh yeah, if you just do this, it will help transition leaders. But I love that you asked it, because I would love to see people thinking about that. I would love to see college staff thinking about how do we care for the local high school grads. And I would love to see Young Life High School leaders thinking about how do we transition them well to the next step, whether it's a local church, a local Young Life, or just staying connected to a loving community. And I do think social media is a way we can do that too. That this platform is so um, diverse, and we can use it for so many different things.
It's awesome. Well, thanks, Andy, for just your time today. It's been awesome. I think for everybody to hear just what you have to say, just so wise in this area of things, and I think it'll be a huge benefit for everybody. So thanks for taking time to do it. And like I said, we'll have a bunch of other conversations, I'm sure, in the future. So thanks for
Awesome. Thanks
being
for
with
doing
us.
this, Adam.
Of
This is
course.
good work, and I can't wait to see. I mean, I just can't wait to get to heaven one day and see people who are like, I discovered Jesus because of an Instagram post. Like I
Right?
just, it's just gonna be so sweet. Like you said, this lineage of faith. that so many more are going to be welcomed in because we're willing to engage in new ways. And it's
Oh,
so cool. So, so
that's so
cool.
great. Awesome. All right. Well, have a good rest of your day. We'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. See you guys.